Good afternoon, everybody. It is 2:26 p.m. Wednesday, July 2nd, 2025. I have a dream for you that I can't quite remember, and I don't have much time to talk, but I'll do my best. In this dream, this scenario played out twice, sort of. First time, things were normal. I was normal. I had ended up at this city of sorts, in this world or future or whatever of dystopia of sorts, where there were these people in red who were basically in control. Dictatorship, tyranny, the usual. And it's hard to describe, but I remember in this village there was this young man who, maybe 16, 18 years old, who brought me to his home when he found me struggling to get my bearings. I eventually learned he was part of a resistant group, and he, soon after taking me in and bringing me to his mom's place, where he also lived, there was this commotion he and his group ended up causing when the government official who was in charge of the place had been in the area. I remember there was this explosion somewhere on the other side of town, and a whole bunch of stuff happened in the fight. I think he ended up dying eventually. I remember time not reversing, but restarting, the scenario restarting, and there was these images. There was this it was I was almost flying through this empty space, and in some movies, the camera is flying through various shapes and images and words or whatever. It was like that. I remember I was flying through empty space, and I remember I flew down a little bit past this eye-shaped thingy that was half opened in a sort of disdain, and then I flew up to center it towards it and flew into it, but it was shaped. It wasn't an actual eye. It was just an image, a shape of it, as if it was made of as if it was a drawing, And I flew through several copies of it until I ended up in another place, and it was brighter. There was this tunnel, straight tunnel I was in, and there was various shapes I was flying through, and moving up and down, left and right, weaving through them as I was going forward. And eventually things became a little more clear, and I was in the tunnel, and there was these trains that were moving through, carrying various stuff, and I was on these rafters of sorts, on these pipes or whatever, and I wanted to get on one of the trains, and it was difficult. I kept missing my shot, but they were going very fast, and I could like grab on to whatever I was on and pull myself forward really fast. Like really, really fast. Like I was like hard to describe, and I realized very quickly that I was not human. Not anymore anyways. Or whatever. And eventually I managed to grab onto or rather, did I? I don't remember if I grabbed onto one of the trains eventually. Maybe I did. But I remember letting go at some point or not grabbing onto it, and ended up in this town. And the train, this like the back end of it had like decoupled and fallen over, and I was moving it around like it was nothing, right? With my my tentacles, my limbs, my very many limbs I could grow and use at will. And it was like there was like spiky things on the train. Like there was like, I think it was like a combination of food and or like drugs, like these like cactus like things that resembled like the marijuana leaves from Schedule 1, but like they weren't marijuana, it was like something else. I couldn't tell if it was food or drugs, and I kept moving around and I was gonna pick it up and push it, but then I realized I should probably leave it where it is, because if they know that someone was moving around and pushing it, they'll know something is there. So I left it where I found it, decoupled and sideways, and even though I had just moved it to be right side up, I had to move it back sideways, and then moved on and realized I was in the same town and from before, and I realized I had an opportunity, some change, something different, right? And I remember I was like walking around on my own, carefully, like stealthily, and I remember hearing some noise and just a commotion. And I remember I climbed up onto this roof, and where this roof was, there was this like red fellow, clad in red, but like with feathers, and he was this like bird-like creature that was a part of the government or whatever, and he was like an assassin or like an agent of sort who kept an eye on things. And I stuck up on him, grabbed him, and broke his neck. And then I watched from his perch as I waited for things to happen, knowing what was about to happen. And I noticed I saw the official walking through town. But it was a different point. It wasn't like when the thing happened, it was before then. And I remembered I was hungry. I needed energy from expending so much of it. And I just absentmindedly used my tentacles to like eat parts of the person I just killed. And I thought to myself, oh, that actually tastes like chicken. Because it was a bird person, sort of. It was like their head, they looked mostly humanoid, but their head and neck were like, their neck was kind of long, their head was kind of small compared to the rest of their body, like disproportionately. Not a whole bunch, but like it was kind of noticeable. And their head was like bird-like, but they had like, it was like a vulture almost, because their skin or whatever was scaly and black. Anyways, I remember eating them little by little, and then I remember trying to avoid some of the I remember moving at some point to go seek out the official myself before the commotion would happen. I think I had arrived a day earlier than what I would have arrived normally. Actually, no, I think I arrived the same time I did, because in the previous experience, I had arrived a day early and then went to sleep, at the one young man's house with his mom, and then the next day, the commotion happened. So I'd arrived a day early, like before the day before the commotion. There was commotion every single day, but like the commotion this time was the official moving through town for his first inspection. And then I guess before everything happened, I sought out the official stealthily, like almost like Assassin's Creed style, but I'm a monster with tentacles and flesh and teeth, and so I can just like do different things. And I found him and then gripped him by the neck. And then, and obviously he woke up. He was asleep with his wife in the bed. And I grabbed him and started pulling him up towards the ceiling. Although there was no ceiling for some reason. We were like outside. I don't know. Things weren't making sense. And I was like, oh, so it's you. It's you. And then like he was struggling when he initially grabbed me. He tried to grab for me and attack me, and that's why I pushed him out further away from me towards the sky, whether it was the ceiling or open sky, I'm not sure. And I like talked to him very briefly about how like I could kill him. I want to kill him because of all the things he's done and things he will do, and you don't remember me, but I remember you. And he's like confused and angry and, frustrated. And then I eventually like bring him close, and explain to him, so you have two options. We have two options. One, I can kill you right here, right now, in front of your wife. Or two, and I remember bringing my left arm, struggling to position it properly, and eventually I positioned it like Superman has moves his hand and his hand back and exposes his wrist to cause the webs to come out. It's similar, but it wasn't my intent. I exposed my wrist a little bit, not a whole bunch, not as much as like Spider-Man, just trying to find some kind of resemblance of something to give an idea of what I'm doing here. But expose my wrist a little bit, just like nonchalantly to my left, and out wriggles this like worm thingy. And as it happens, I tell him, or you can become my puppet. What do you think? And the wife has been freaking out this entire time, and at some point I told her to shut up, or maybe he did. I don't remember. And eventually he, I don't remember what he said, but eventually it was decided that he would rather live. And I was like, okay. And then I used the worm on him. I don't remember if I used it on the back of his neck or on his mouth. I think it was in his mouth. I think I told him, I think he had an idea of what was going on, which means he was familiar somehow what was happening, which was interesting. Or maybe I explained to him what was going to happen, right? It was going to go into his brain. And he exposed his back of his neck to me. I'm like, no, open your mouth and do not swallow, or this is going to hurt more than it should. And I explained to him it's going to go into his brain from the back of his throat. It's softer there, right? And if he swallows, it'll go down to his stomach, and it'll have to go through his stomach and the rest of his body as it burrows through his body. And that would not be fun. So I told him, whatever you do, don't swallow, keep your throat closed, and don't breathe. And because that way his throat is closed, so it doesn't accidentally fall down, or he doesn't actually swallow it. And so I put it into his mouth, and it goes to the back of his throat. He struggles, and it hurts, and then eventually he calms down, and then like he passes out for like very like a brief moment, and then wakes up from his wife incessantly asking for him, calling out his name, because she's like in a panic mode but quiet, this entire time, and he stopped moving, And then he eventually says, I'm fine, I'm here, quiet. And then I let him go. And I told him, I'll be keeping an eye on you. And you'll do things on my behalf. Otherwise, in other case, we'll be, like, something along the lines of, like, we'll keep in touch, right? And explained to him that his wife and him will live for now. And I don't remember if I told the wife or not what happened. I think that he explained to her that she should not rat her husband out for having been taken over if she and him both want to live. Because the moment she does, her husband will kill her at my command and then kill himself, basically. And it was a weird situation. I just remember, like, at some point leaving the official and then, like, kind of just, like, wandering in town. It was, like, dark. It was, like, nighttime, I think. Or, like, there's lots of lights, though. And just, like, more nonchalantly. And I remember there was this, like, this alleyway I was going down. I realized the alleyway was where the explosion happens. And there was another officer, separate from the one I found on the roof. This is an actual officer, it clad in red. And this red is like a blood red, you know, like almost kind of bright, but not so bright. Pretty significant. And I remember, like, I think killing them for some reason. I think they were a problem. I don't remember what they were doing or why. And I just left their body there, you know. Because it'd be weird for him to disappear, right? Because or maybe not. Maybe I simply brought the body. No. I ate the body of the previous one. I don't remember. But, like, eventually it made my way back to the side of town where that young man was staying with his mom. It was nighttime, right? They're probably sleeping. And I think I snuck my way into the house and just watched him as he slept for a couple minutes. I don't remember if I actually maybe woke him up or talked to him, or if I simply left silently. But, I woke up from before I could figure out more what was happening, really. It was interesting. It was honestly really interesting, because, like, when early in the dream, when I was, like, trying to catch up to the train, I was, like, on those pipes, right? I was, like, gripping the pipes, like, left hand, right hand, and, like, flying forward with how fast I was doing. And it was, this whole place was futuristic in a, like, dystopian sort of way. It was like, do you know, I don't remember how the name of it. I think it's, like, Oddworld or whatever. I think it's Oddworld. It reminded me of that a little bit. But more humans and less just pure aliens. And it was different. And the government were clad in all red. And there was poverty. The town we were in, the part of town we were in, was, like, almost the slums, but not quite. It's because, like, everywhere is the slums, where those in government office are living normally in life of luxury, and those who are not are destitute. You know, everyone is. There's not a single person who's not. And they're always forced into labor and getting given rations or maybe funds of some sort. I don't know. So it was an interesting dream. It was interesting. I just remember, like, clearly not being human myself, being humanoid and looking human, but having, like, tentacles and, like, being able to eat pretty much anybody, and I wanted to if I wanted to. And I ate that one bird-like individual, the assassin, vulture, agent, like, spy, or, like, whatever, who worked for the government to keep an eye on things. And I had realized that him going missing would be a problem. I don't know how I decided I wanted to deal with that, but whatever. I would like to talk more, and it's hard to describe exactly what's going on, what was going on in the dream, and I can see things. I can see the dream, like I remember I'm looking at like how those images I was flying through, and like being human before I became non-human. I think it was like a part of like a premonition almost, like a different reality. I had met with a young man while human, and then something happened. Maybe I died perhaps eventually. I don't remember dying, but maybe that's what happened. Or I'd somehow, in my pre-birth state in that darkness, before I zoomed through the drawn images of like eyes, of disdain, I had seen a parallel world and what could have been. I don't know. There's a lot to unpack, and it's hard to remember. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this little weird dream I had. I gotta get ready for work. I'm gonna be late if I don't get ready. And I'll talk to you later. Bye. Bye-bye.